The decree arrived the same morning as the cadet. I remember both because I logged them in the same breath. The consul's formal dissolution notice, for House Varon, sealed in amber wax and routed through 3 administrative channels, so no one could miss it. And then a single human girl walking into Assessment Hall 7, with a dented ration tin under one arm and a kit bag over the other. She found a seat at the rear of the tiered chamber, away from the other cadets, and opened the tin. She ate while the consul's representative read the decree aloud at the front of the room. I am Soveth Kal. I have administered the Intersector Cadet assessment for 11 cycles. I've seen 340 cadets pass through Hall 7. I have never filed a report like the one I filed that day. And I have never been so precisely wrong about anything in my professional life. The decree was thorough. House Varon, one of the original human lineages to hold formal intersector standing, had failed to produce a registered heir for 2 consecutive census cycles. Assets dissolved, classification revoked. The consul's representative, a lean Ghivari official named Preceptor Duval, read the dissolution language with the flat efficiency of a man reciting cargo manifests. It was bureaucratic execution, clean and final. The other cadets, 7 Ghivari, 2 Sethrani, 1 Orvaki, watched Duval with the polite discomfort of witnesses at a proceeding that did not concern them. The human girl at the back did not look up from her ration tin. I noted her in my register. Mira Varon, age 19 standard years, presenting under House Varon credentials that were, as of that morning, formally void. She had no standing to sit the assessment. I should have asked her to leave before Duval finished reading. I did not. I am still examining why. She was small. That was the first thing. The thing the photographs in the file had not conveyed. Small even by human measure, which runs short against most of the species in the hall. Dark hair, badly cut. A faint scar along her left jaw. Pale kind that comes from old gravity field damage, not a fight. She wore training fatigues that had been washed so many times the color had gone gray. She ate whatever was in the tin, with the focused attention of someone who had learned not to waste food. She did not look like the last member of anything. Duval finished. He gathered his documents. He glanced at the rear of the chamber, registered the human girl, and turned to me. The Varan seat, he said, is unoccupied as of this morning. I'm aware, I said. Then the candidate. We'll begin the assessment, I said. I did not know why I said it. I wrote it off as procedural inertia. 11 cycles. You begin the assessment. The first battery was atmospheric tolerance, pressurized chamber, incremental compression to the point most cadets request a pause. Standard threshold for a Ghivari cadet is 4, 2 standard atmospheres before neurological stress indicators climb. The Sethrani top out around 5.1. The Orvaki, who are built wide and low and dense, once recorded 6.8 in this hall, which had been the chamber record for 4 cycles. I watched the gauge on Mira Varon's station. She sat with her hands flat on the desk. The compression rose. 4 atmospheres, she blinked. 5, she looked at her hands, turned them over, just at the backs of them, apparently checking something. 6. The Orvaki cadet to her left was gripping the desk edge. 6.8. The Orvaki requested pause. 7. Mira Varon picked up a stylus from the desk surface and tapped it once against her palm, as though she were keeping time. My calibration assistant, a young Ghivari named Tessic, leaned toward me. Instructor, call the gauge. I see it, I said. It's reading. I see it, Tessic. 8 atmospheres. She tapped the stylus a second time. 8.4. I called the halt myself. Because the Sethrani candidates on the left tier were in genuine distress and I had a duty of care. Mira Varon set the stylus down. Next one, she said. She said it the way a person asks if there is more bread. Tessic pulled me aside during the instrument recalibration. He kept his voice low, which the Ghivari do when they are genuinely unsettled. Volume is for certainty. Quiet is for the things that don't fit the file. The Varon biological classification, he said, lists them as a standard class 9 lineage. Moderate adaptive range, no combat caste markers. I know what the file says. The file is wrong. Yes, I said. Recalibrate for class 14 parameters and run it again. He stared at me. Class 14 is not a category we use in assessment settings. Class 14 is a category we use when the sensor array has exceeded its designed operational range and we need a wider frame to capture what we're looking at. Run it, I said. The second battery was combat reflex threshold, a measured response protocol, not a fight. Stimulus reaction timing, force application accuracy, kinesthetic recovery speed. I have seen Ghivari warrior caste candidates score in the 92nd percentile and feel satisfied. The Orvaki record in this hall set 6 cycles ago was 96th. Mira Varen scored in the 99th. She did it without standing up. She sat in the assessment chair, back straight, both feet flat on the floor, and completed every reflex sequence from a seated position, while the timing array tried 3 times to find an error in her response pattern, and logged 0 deviations. When the final sequence fired, she caught the reaction prompt with her left hand, completed the motor response, and set her hand back flat on the desk. The motion was so small and so precise that Tesek, watching from the side station, actually checked his display twice to confirm it had registered. It had registered. Pre-Sector Duval had stayed. I had not noticed him move to the observer's rail, but he was there. His dissolution documents folded under one arm, watching with the expression of a man who has arrived to close an account and found the balance considerably larger than the ledger claimed. I was writing notes I did not know how to categorize. The third battery, environmental stress cascade, the one that ends careers, I almost skipped. There is a professional argument for not running a cadet past the point where the instruments stop being useful. There is also the argument that you finish the assessment. I finished the assessment. She ran the cascade in 17 minutes. The standing time for this hall was 23. When she stepped out of the stress chamber, she was breathing at a rate 11% above her resting baseline. In a human, that is a brisk walk. She pulled a canteen from her kit bag, drank, and looked around the hall. The other cadets were watching her. The Ghivari cadets with the careful neutrality of people recalculating something important. The Sethrani with what I can only describe as relief. The relief of a species that has always suspected the galaxy's taxonomies were political rather than scientific, and has just been handed evidence. It was then that Duval moved. He came down from the observer's rail with his documents in hand, and he did the thing I had been waiting for him to do since the atmospheric battery. He cleared his throat. He cited Procedural Code 7 Aleph, which governs standing requirements for assessment participants. He noted, for the record, that House Veron had been dissolved as of that morning. He said carefully that he took no pleasure in the interruption. The candidate had no valid standing to complete, or to have completed, the assessment, and that accordingly her scores would need to be struck. He said it to me, not to her. She raised her hand. It was a small gesture. The hand came up maybe to shoulder height, the way you raise a hand in a classroom when you have a question and are not in a hurry. Duval stopped. He looked at her. The dissolution notice, Mira Varen said, cites 2 missed census cycles. I was 11 years old for the first one. The census team didn't come to the station where we were posted. She said this with no particular emphasis. The second cycle, I was at a forward resupply depot in the Varak Passage. There's a communications blackout in that corridor that's been on record for 30 years. She opened her kit bag. She produced a fold document. She set it on the desk. I submitted the filing 3 weeks ago, she said. Standard correction through the civil registry. It's currently in queue. She looked at Duval. If you want to run the dissolution anyway, that's your department. But you'd be dissolving a house in the middle of an active correction proceeding, which I'm told has different paperwork. The hall was very quiet. Duval looked at the document. He did not pick it up. I picked it up. The filing stamp was dated 3 weeks prior. The queue number was valid. I checked it against my administrative terminal in 30 seconds, and the record was exactly where she had said it was, sitting in the civil registry's correction queue. Entirely legitimate, entirely unresolved. I set the document back on the desk. I looked at Pre-Sector Duval. He looked at me. He gathered his papers, he said, with the precision of a man who will be reviewing his agency's procedures before the week was out, that he would hold the dissolution pending resolution of the active filing. He left the hall. He walked, not quickly, teat, but with the particular efficiency of someone who wants to be somewhere else. I sat at my station for a moment and looked at my assessment record for Cadet Mira Varen, House Varen, standing valid, scores logged. 99th percentile in combat reflex, 8.4 atmospheres, cascade in 17 minutes. I wrote the report the only way I knew how to write it. I reclassified the session. I updated the standing register. I added a flag to the House Farron file, noting that the dissolution had been predicated on administrative records that had not accounted for its documented posting history, and that any future classification of this lineage should be run against empirical assessment data, and not census paperwork. I noted under supplementary observations, a field I have used perhaps twice in 11 cycles, that I had come within one procedural call of removing a Class 14 deathworlder from my hall because a bureaucrat had filed the wrong paperwork. She was still at her desk when I finished. She had gone back to her ration tin. It was apparently not empty. I had declared her house extinct before I had run the numbers. So had the consul. So had every administrator in the chain that produced Duval and his amber-sealed decree. The numbers, it turned out, had simply been waiting for someone to ask them.